Hello and welcome to WWDC.
Welcome. My name is Steve Breen, and I'm an engineer on the UI Kit team. In this video, we're going to chat a bit about advances in UI Collection View for iOS 14. Before we dive into our content, I'm going to highlight a portion of the companion sample project for this video entitled Emoji Explorer. Now, this sample has a lot of interesting components baked into its design. In this first section, there's a horizontally scrolling grid of emoji. And this is a pretty common design element in today's applications. Now, this middle section of Emoji Explorer is especially novel. It's an expandable, collapsible outline, which is new in iOS 14. And finally, in this last section, there's a design that looks suspiciously like a UI table view right here, camped out in the middle of our UI collection view. Okay, so that's Emoji Explorer, and we'll be referring back to this throughout the video. The APIs that comprise UI Collection View can be slotted into three distinct categories: data, layout, and presentation. One of the novel concepts UI Collection View was built on was the separation of concerns between the data, or the what, from the layout, the where, content is being rendered. This distinction is at the core of what makes UI Collection View so flexible. When UI Collection View was first released back in iOS 6, data was managed via an index path-based protocol, UI Collection View data source. And for layout, we had an abstract class, UI Collection View layout, and we shipped a concrete subclass, UI Collection View flow layout. And on the presentation side, we published two view types, UI Collection View cell and UI Collection Reusable View. Back in iOS 13, we introduced two new components for data and layout, respectively, with diffable data source and compositional layout. And these are the APIs to use for building apps with UI Collection Views today. For iOS 14, we built on these modern APIs and introduced new features across all three of these API categories with enhancements to diffable data sources, compositional layout, and cells. First up, let's chat about enhancements to diffable data source. Diffable data source, introduced in iOS 13, greatly simplifies the management of UI state through the addition of the new snapshot data type. Snapshots encapsulate the entire UI state via the use of unique section and item identifiers. When updating a UI collection view, we first create a new snapshot, populate it with the current UI state, and then apply it to the data source. Diffable data source computes the differences and generates animations automatically without requiring any additional work from you. So we covered this API in detail in WWDC 2019 video, Advances in UI Data Sources, and I encourage you to check out that video to learn more. For iOS 14, we're adding a new snapshot type we call section snapshots. And as the name implies, section snapshots encapsulates the data for a single section in a UI collection view. There are two reasons for this enhancement. First, to allow data sources to be more composable into section-sized chunks of data. And second, to allow modeling of hierarchical data, which is needed to support rendering outline style UIs, a common visual design found all throughout iOS 14. So let's go back to Emoji Explorer and see how section snapshots are used to build out this sample app. First, in our horizontally scrolling section, we see we're using a single section snapshot to completely model the content found here. And next, in our second section, where we see this expandable, collapsible outline style, a second section snapshot is used to model this hierarchical data. And finally, in our list section, we again model this section's content with a third section snapshot. So for Emoji Explorer, we have composed our diffable data source into three distinct section snapshots, each representing a single section's content. That's a brief overview of the new section snapshots we've added to UI Collection View's diffable data source for iOS 14, but there's more. We've also added new reordering APIs. To take a deeper dive into these new APIs, please check out the video Advances in Diffable Data Sources. Next up, let's talk about some advances in compositional layout for iOS 14. Compositional layout was introduced back in iOS 13, and it allows us to build rich, complex layouts by composing smaller, easier-to-reason bits of layout together. Compositional layout is fast because you describe what you want the layout to look like instead of how the layout ought to work. Compositional layout also includes the ability to have section-specific layouts to help you build more sophisticated UIs. And there's even support for orthogonal scrolling sections. To learn more about compositional layout, check out the WWDC 2019 video, Advances in Collection View Layout. Okay, so for iOS 14, we've built on the foundation of compositional layout with a new feature we call lists. Lists allow you to include UITableView-like sections right into any UI collection view. And these lists are rich with features you've come to expect from UITableView, like swipe actions and many common cell layouts. And creating a list-style layout is simple. Since list is built on top of compositional layout, we can easily mix and match lists with other kinds of layout on a per-section basis. Let's check out a code snippet to see just how easy it is to create a list-styled layout with compositional layout. As you can see, it's quite simple, just 2 lines of code. In this example, we're creating a UI collection view layout where every section in our collection view is a list with an inset grouped appearance. And here's what that layout would look like. So that's just a brief tour of compositional layout lists, but there's a lot more to lists. There's a new concrete UI collection view list cell, header and footer support, and also a new sidebar appearance we see in many iPadOS system apps. For a deeper dive, please check out the video Lists in UI Collection View. Finally, let's chat a little bit about UI Collection View and modern cells. For iOS 14, we have a brand new way to configure cells with a new API we call cell registrations. Cell registrations are a simple, reusable way to set up a cell from a view model. Cell registrations eliminate the extra step of registering a cell class or nib to associate it with the reuse identifier. We instead use a generic registration type, which incorporates a configuration closure for setting up a new cell from a view model. Let's take a look at this API in action. First, we create our cell registration, which is generic over the cell class, in this case, myCell, and our view model class. Notice the registration takes a closure, which is called whenever a new cell is constructed. This is where we configure the cell's content from our view model. With cell registrations, we no longer need the extra step of calling register. We simply use the cell registration from our diffable data source cell provider with the new API dequeuing reusable cell using registration. So that's cell registrations. Next up, cell content configurations. Cell content configurations provide standardized layouts for cells similar to what is seen in UITableView standard cell types. These configurations can be used with any cell or even a generic UI view. They're very flexible. So let's check out a few visual examples to get a taste of how these work. So here we can see a simple case of an image and some text and a very standard looking cell layout. And here's the value cell variant, where the second text is on the trailing side of the cell. And finally, we have the subtitle cell, which has the secondary text underneath the main text. Of note here, these content configuration types are very lightweight and simply describe what the content should look like. Framework takes care of all the layout considerations and automatically optimizes for performance. And finally, background configurations. These are quite similar to content configurations, but apply to any cell's background with the ability to adjust properties such as color, border styles, and more. So we've barely scratched the surface with modern cell configuration. For a deeper dive, please check out the video Modern Cell Configuration. Okay, so that wraps up this overview of advances in Collection View for iOS 14. Go download the sample app to see these APIs in action, and use our code as a basis for adding these features to your apps. And to learn more, go check out the related videos, and thanks for watching.